Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry for some technical issues, and I also don't think it's possible to stream using this Zoom account, so that's why there will be no stream on YouTube. Those of you who are expecting me to start, so use this link. Yeah, just a sec. I'm about to insert it to the chat. So this is the link, and mhm. So fine. Well, let's start. Let me share the screen, and we're gonna start. Today we are going to talk about um, strategy and tactics, and I also would like to demonstrate the game that I recently played. Well, you know I'm playing on Title Tuesdays every Tuesday, so well, and one of the games was played really well, and this game helps how to understand that good strategy favors tactical strikes. But before we start, let's continue with the homework. That was the homework from your last webinar, and so let's talk about these two positions. So what's wrong with bishop c2? So let me make these moves on the board. No, this is a wrong one, so probably from the previous one. No, that was another homework here. So here, if you remember, I was asking you regarding castle, c4, check, bishop e7, bishop f1, then castle, b3, and b5. So how to deal with b5 move? What do you remember? What do you think is the best move for white position, in white's position, to ruin the black's plan, to hold these pawns there? Okay, let me check your answers. Okay, yeah, it's definitely a4. So everyone said a4. Why a4? Because a6 is not playable because of this pin, right? Second is that if they take on a4, we take on c4. And then they are likely to lose this pawn on a4 anyway. So we will be a pawn up in such a case. What else can be played against a4? Well, it's hard to say. Probably they have to take there. But in such a case, we take on b5. Now this pawn is hanging. So taking on c2 is a must. Queen takes c2. And then what do we have? The number of pawns is equal, but we have a far advanced pawn, which is supported by the bishop. It potentially stops the a pawn, of course. If they play a6 right away, we won't take because, well, what's the point? We just exchange. But after a6, they cannot unpin anyway. So probably by adding the pressure on the pawn on a7 and having this pawn far advanced and preventing the enemy knight from going to a6 and c6, we are likely to have some advantage here. Okay, fine. And well, the white's position is better. Not much, actually. Yeah, actually it's +1 according to the engine. And now let's go back and ask me about the first position that we were about to discuss. No, it wasn't this one. It's probably this one. Mm, so here the queens were... No, not this one. No, it's maybe this. No, this. Gukesh was playing with white pieces, I remember. Yes, I think it's this one. No. Hmm. Now I don't remember from which game it's taken. Not from this, and not from the first one. Yes, okay, so maybe this is the game. So I remember there was a bishop on c2. So which game was it from? Who remembers? I'm asking about this position. Which game was it from? So I remember that the game ended in a draw, and Dink had some chances. He was playing with black pieces, so probably it's the same. No, it's not this. It's not French defense. Definitely not this game. Oh no, it's this game. That's right. So here, bishop c2, bishop f4. This was played. So bishop went to c2, and now instead of that, what happened if they captured on b3? So this is the second. That was actually originally the first question, and here, of course, the bishop is in the trouble. You can continue with knight d2, and if bishop goes back to c2, then the bishop is absolutely trapped because even if they try this, it's f3 and the bishop has no moves. If they try to play g5, trying to vacate the g6 square, it's actually too late because of this move. Well, bishop g5 may work too, but I like this one because I'm pinning here. Because if, for example, you decide to play bishop g5, then it's knight e4, and your bishop is under attack. So if you have to take, they take back. But bishop e5 creates a pin, and both pieces are under the attack simultaneously. So that's why after knight d2, they would have to play bishop c4 move. And in such a case, if this move is played, you can capture once, right? And then you can continue with e3, taking this pawn and having a bishop pair. Now I have the second question for you. What's wrong with b5? It seems like this move supports the pawn on c4, but is a mistake. Yeah, there are two suggestions. You can start with knight b5 first. Yeah, actually, why not to play e4? Because you need this diagonal to attack enemy weaknesses. That's why this. E4 can be played later. So, for example, if they play something else, something logical like knight d7, you take there and you can play e4 later. But if you play e4 in this position, they react with b5, you no longer have neither knight b5 nor bishop g2. Moreover, they are threatening to push and take on e4 then. So it's still a good position and e4 is still playable, but if you can play e4 later, then you'd better be more flexible and keep this diagonal for pieces. So for example, here on knight b5, bishop g2 works well, or just bishop g2 right away and knight b5 after that, because it's impossible to save. Maybe this move, they lose there, they lose here, and the c4 pawn too. Right, so that's why bishop b3 was a mistake, and that's why Dean Liren here played a very nice move h5. Okay, fine, so we are done with it, and today we are going to continue with strategy and tactics. First of all, before we start this topic, let me tell you, well, the most common scenarios that you can see in the games of strong grandmasters are like are likely to be like that when one of the player strategically outplays the other one, but at the same time, the other player, by tactical means, finds a combination which allows him to start a direct confrontation, and then the combinational fight starts, and the player whose position was originally strategically bad now starts obtaining some advantage, mainly because of this combination. However, you should understand that tactics appears not immediately. So, I mean, yeah, well, one move can change everything. However, some tactical motives appear first, and these motives can indicate you that in this position tactics is possible, and you should take advantage of these tactical drawbacks in the enemy position. So, for example, you see, let's say for example here, two rooks on these diagonal. So if you had a light squared bishop, dark squared bishop, you could potentially take advantage and make a pin. But well, it doesn't work here. If you had this bishop here and the pawn was on a5, you would think about how to get rid of this pawn. You would be looking for forcing moves like that or this to exchange and bring the bishop to a5. So your task when you're looking for a tactic in a strategically bad position, you should try to take into account which tactical motives appeared or may appear in future and prepare your tactical combinations for that. So that's why a stronger chess player, which strategically played well, shouldn't blunder and shouldn't create tactical drawbacks in his position in order to not blunder any tactical strike from his opponent, which is sometimes hard, but this is what everyone should try to achieve. People always ask me, so what is better? What skill they should improve? Their ability to see tactical vision or their positional understanding? And some of my students criticize me that I'm not showing them some strategic plans, for example, what they should be doing with this type of the pawn structure, with that type of the pawn structure. Well, until a certain level, strategy isn't so important because because tactics is. Every tactical strike can any tactical strike can turn the game from completely losing to completely winning. So that's why coaches start usually with tactical skills, trying to to force their students to learn tactics, to be able to learn tactical strikes and recognize tactical motives during the game, to then be able to find them during the game. So tactics is first. If you are a bad player, let's say you're under 1000 and you want to improve very quickly, then do tactical puzzles at the very least, or do tactical courses, like learn tactical motives, but then anyway you have to practice with puzzles. If you are stronger, let's say you are 1500, then you should do both tactics and strategy. Depends on what you mainly struggle with. If you, after playing the opening stage of the game, are able to get a good position, playable, and you understand what you should be doing, then do tactics more than strategy. If you struggle with openings and let's say you get a good position after the first 10 moves, but then you don't understand what you should be doing, you are initiating a wrong plan and your opponent outplays you, and then from time to time you can suddenly find a tactical strike and save the game, then do work on your positional understanding. Okay, so let's continue. Let's take a look at this game. So here, it was Vishay Anand played against Gary Kasparov. Well, white seems to be better. They have a very strong knight on d5. They are about to take on e7, so why not, right? Actually, that was a good move. However, such a move would require black to play the only moves. So rook e8, before attacking that rook, a takes before, a takes before, rook c4, so two targets are hanging, and after knight d5, bishop d5. So rook takes before, king a3, rook c4, both are hanging, but c2 is a weakness. King goes to b3, and in this position, which move is required? Who can tell me what's the best move here for black in order to not lose the game? I like rook ec8, said John. Yeah, rook ec8. No, it's not rook ec8. If you play rook ec8, I can just defend with rook e2. And you still have problem with two pawns hanging. There is some other tactical motive that you should take advantage of. Yes, so thanks, then it's f5. f5 and you take advantage of this pin. So for example, rook b5, now rook ec8, and then if they decide to play this move, here you can continue with take, and then you just hold the position because you keep enemy pieces passive. So let's say like that, and what they can do. If they try to do this, then you just go back and, well, none of the pawns can get advanced. Fine. So, well, rook e8 maybe works even here instead of e5. So you can do this, rook e2. But I would love to make this pawn isolated before doing rook e8. Okay, so knight e7 and black is able to defend their position. That's why Anand plays before, trying to play for a win. A takes before, a takes before, and rook c4. Well, where else the rook moves? If rook goes there, it's knight e7. Rook c4, and then here, Vishy Anand thought that he does a fork and wins material. Because after that, the king goes to a3 and we have two rooks hanging. This is where he stopped the analysis. So originally he was strategically better, but because then he decided to exploit his positional advantage in a wrong way, he got into trouble and allowed Garry Kasparov to obtain tactical ideas. So Garry took king a3, and can you please tell me what did white miss in this position? Rook c3, how does rook c3 works? It's just king b4. So rook e8, it's still king b4. You cannot even check with rook a4 then. No, it doesn't work. So rook a6, rook a4 followed by rook e8. What do you mean? Rook a4, knight takes, rook a8. So you win exchange. You lose exchange, I mean. Okay, fine. But you still lose exchange, and where is your compensation? Rook a6, no. Rook a6 is not even possible. Okay, so it was rook c2. How does rook c2 works? Yes, thank you, Peter. How does this move works? Well, if they take, they are 2 pawns down. If they take on c2, then rook b3 works, and the king has to go there. After which it's just rook e3, check, and they discover the attack. So the king moves, or maybe they decide to move the knight back, then rook e1, and again black is 2 pawns up, and that's the reason why Garry Kasparov won the game here. So what did happen? Instead of playing strategically, why just simply blunder the combination because he thought that he is already winning? Well, of course, I can understand Anand. He thought that, okay, I have a strategic domination in the center. My knight on d5 is better than the enemy bishop. So the enemy rooks doesn't have enough squares. So I have space. I have pawn majority on the queen side. Probably there should be some of the ways of how to exploit this advantage. Well, yeah, that's right. But then um, you have to play properly. It doesn't obligatory mean that you can fork and win material because by forking you activate the enemy bishop, and that's why they can take advantage of your king and maybe create some danger. Everything should be well calculated if you decide to play such a move. If you are not ready to play such a move, play c3, and this is how your position is very slightly better. c3, bishop d5, rook d5, rook takes c3, rook e2. This pawn falls. Well, if you try to defend it, then it's after e5, this becomes a weakness. So probably something like that, and the game would end in a draw in such a case. Or even don't play before, but play knight e7, or yeah, play knight e7, or even just knight f4, relocate your knight, and well, I don't know, try to play g4 maybe to switch the place of action to the other side. Okay, let's continue. The next example. This is the game between Tigran Petrosyan and Boris Spassky. So what white should be doing? This is the position with an isolated pawn on d5. The black pieces are well developed. This bishop doesn't look good, but anyway, other pieces are completely fine. Typically, you should, as a player who plays against an isolated pawn, you should blockade it. If then they offer an exchange of the bishops, it's fine. So the position is approximately equal. This doesn't make much sense, but just having this blockade, relocating pieces, and trying to exchange, maybe trying to occupy 5 would work for white, and white would be strategically better. But here, Tigran Petrosyan overvalues his position and plays, or it's better to say overestimates his position and plays this move, bishop d3. So, well, probably he wanted to exchange because he didn't find a good solution where to move this bishop. And with this bishop d3 move, he activates the queen, gets more freedom to locate his pieces, so some more room to maneuver with them, and also simplifies. What did he miss by playing bishop d3? What do you think? So knight c4. Well, knight c4 in order to fight for the center is generally speaking a logical move. Well, you play this, he plays that, and well, what did you achieve? You can take on c3? Well, yes, probably you can. Let me show you actually. This you can take, the rook takes, and if you decide to ruin his pawn structure, most likely he takes here and then takes with the bishop. Wait a sec. Am I missing anything? Is this move possible here? Yes, it seems it is. Okay, so well, then I probably just have to take with a pawn. Yeah, but maybe a bishop pair will help white to play for win. Okay, so there is a nice suggestion by John. The idea is to exchange on d3 and then continue with d4. And after knight d4, you can play bishop c4. Pins the queen and rook. Well, very good. But what, John, what if queen takes? Looks like you missed it. And because you missed it, it makes, I mean, because such a possibility of queen takes d4 exists, then probably you should start calculating a different move order. And that's absolutely right. So what didn't Petrosyan understand in this position? He didn't understand that because of losing this bishop on d3, he weakens this diagonal and this tactical motive occurs. So yes, you can write the complete sequence. Yeah, okay. Oh, wait a sec. Yeah, please write down the sequence. Um, so you can start with d4. What happens? Well, knight takes, you can take there. And if queen takes, it's bishop c4 again. So queen f5, bishop f1, and so on. If e takes, it's basically the same. Okay, actually, knight takes here, knight e6. Well, it seems that with this move, they want to get rid of our bishop, but we can just simply take, and then our knight is well protected. So they took with the bishop, but it didn't change anything. Knight d3, queen d3, and bishop c4. Now they lost exchange. It doesn't obligatory mean that black is completely winning. It's a very complicated position and there is a compensation, but definitely not a full compensation. After knight d5, trying to simplify the position to pass the game to the end game where black can successfully realize their advantage. So they played this move, knight e2. And after bishop f6, well, it seems that there's a very, very small compensation. Yeah, thanks guys for your suggestions. Let's continue. And before we continue, let me tell you something. So, so in order to not blunder tactics, when you are trying to realize your positional plan, you should have in mind your king's safety, as well as your piece's safety, and coordination of your pieces and where your pieces can retreat in case if they are under the attack. Of course, there are a lot of tactics and you cannot predict all. There is no certain algorithm which helps you to predict all possible tactics, but at least you have to think about your piece's safety as well as the king's safety, because a lot of tactics is based on your king's position. So, how to become a better tactician? Well, do more tactics and learn tactical patterns. This is well, this is universal suggestion. So I think I simplified tactics in this course. In my course, train your tactical vision. So if you already uh, purchased it, that's great. If not, then you have a chance. So let me share the screen fully. So in this course, what do I show there? Here. So there are several chapters, and first of all, I am teaching you how to find how to calculate tactics. So I'm teaching you how to calculate and find forcing moves. Then I tell you which moves by your opponent may indicate that probably there is tactics in this position. Then I am teaching mating patterns. Then I'm teaching tactical motives, and then you also have to practice. For the advanced players, I have chapter 5, creating tactics, when you can prepare tactics yourself. And of course, there is a homework. So this is my very strong recommendation. If I were like, how many? Well, if I were 10, instead of doing a lot of tactics, I would rather take this or a similar course, and only then would do tactics. It would help much more. So the link is here. If you want to join, you're welcome. Probably there will be a sale soon. Oh, actually, yeah, people started liking this course. They marked 431. Well, which is good, because in average it's 3 and 5 on Chessable. Okay, so let me share once again. Let's continue. So it's actually a white to move, but we are going to analyze this position for black. So let me do this. It's the game between Efim Geller and Svetozar Grigorich. Okay, so Peter, yes, I think you are on the right way. That's right. So white has some domination. They got space on the king side as well as in the center, but on the king side, they close the position. The queen side is still open, and because of that, white is trying to maneuver with his pieces on the queen side. So he is preparing to get them better. So knight goes there, where it potentially can go here, so that can occupy c6. Maybe, well, the bishop occasionally moves or will be exchanged, and the knight goes there too, but I don't see good prospects of knight b3, so mainly it's knight b4. What black should do? What's your opinion? So, Peter, you can suggest the line and explain why you think that it works. Okay. Can you see? Yeah, what should I see? I wrote it in the notebook. No, I don't see it. I can probably open notes. No, it's loading. No, I don't see it. Okay, so knight e4, knight g4, bishop g4. Okay, thank you. C5, but don't know. Okay, so C5, yes, it's definitely the first move that comes to our minds, because we shouldn't let them just simply occupy C6. Then we are under a very strong pressure and we can only play for two results. Either we lose or draw the game. So this move, D takes C6, rook takes C6, rook takes, queen takes, and then just queen e2. So this is a weakness. They're going to occupy d5. Well, this is a very unpleasant scenario. We shouldn't let them play d5 actually, but I think it's possible because it's not playable because e5 is always under attack. b5 is a kind of a weakness. So white seems to be better in such a case. That's why here black didn't agree with this plan, and once black realized that the knight goes to c1 and this diagonal becomes open, he sacrifices the knight. He sacrifices the knight, pawn takes, bishop takes g4. Here, white decided that if they lose this pawn, black gets a pass pawn and they are in a trouble. That's the reason why they played rook h1. I'm not a fan of this move, to be honest. I think that instead they'd better continue with knight d3. Then after bishop takes h5, knight b4 still, they should still follow their plan. The rook goes back, then what? Let's save the rook. Let's move it to g1. And this is what I think white can play for a win. It doesn't mean that they're better. I would say it's approximately equal. 3 pawns to compensate the knight. And if, for example, we exchange the queens, then I would say black is better. But with the queens on the board, the king becomes vulnerable. So they played rook h1, was a kind of a mistake. Bishop f3, forking. Queen goes to e1. So again, if rook e1, then bishop h5, which they didn't want. But actually it was okay, knight d3 then, and some attack on the king in case if these pawns are advanced. So queen e1. How to play? Well, you can always take. c5, trying to trap. D takes c6, rook takes c6, and bishop d5. So rook c2 doesn't work. We lose a queen with no compensation. I can show you. So, and black is a rook down. That's why bishop h1. Queen takes h1 and simply queen d7. So black is still down a piece, but they have 2 pawns as a compensation. And these two are weaknesses which white has to support. Knight d3, queen c4 attacking this knight and preventing the knight coming to d5 and then b4 and then d5. So queen f3. Now another critical moment. How would you play here? Okay, thanks for your suggestions. Yes, it's d5. d5, and if they take, it's a4. But of course they don't take. Instead, they capture on a5. However, this time queen e4 looks good. Okay, so thanks for your suggestion. Yes, I think it does make sense. Okay, queen e4, d takes e4. And there is a compensation. This is the end game, and these pawns are very dangerous. So e3, we can chase the knight away. If h5 is lost, which is also possible because the king is quite close to it, then white is in the trouble. So that's why they decided, well, that's why queen e4 was a good move, but such a move wasn't played in the game. Instead, queen f1. Queen c2, well, I can explain what black wanted. After d takes e4, the queen has to move and leave this bishop hanging. So the queen moves to e4, there is no better square, and then queen f2 check. Now this king is in a danger and it's a checkmate coming. So queen, let's say, okay, king d3, let's say just a random move. Queen g6, king h8, knight f7, checkmate. If the king goes there, then this is a checkmate, as well as this. So that's why black had to repeat the position and finally claim a draw. Well, why it is a draw? If the king goes to b3, you can play queen e3, provoke the exchange, and then, because of two passed pawns, you're winning. So you're +1, but these are two passed pawns, and the h5 is also lost. That's why the game ended in a draw. So going back, what can we say? It doesn't seem that White realized their strategic advantage properly. They allowed Black to sacrifice the knight and capture with the bishop and try to take advantage of the weakness of the light diagonals. So, and some of the pawns were lost. Instead of that, they'd better add pressure in a different way. For example, they could double and get this square under the control. If so, knight g4 wouldn't be such a serious threat because it wouldn't attack the rook. Like that. Okay, fine. So then there is some homework, and now there is the game that I would like to show you. The game I played, and this game fully covers the concept that I want you guys to understand. So if you play strategically well, then tactical strikes are mainly favor you. Did you understand this concept? So let me try to explain it in a different way. So, so if you do proper plans, if you have positional advantage and your opponent decides to initiate a tactical strike, this tactical strike, if you calculate the line properly, of course, will favor you. This is the rules of chess. Well, not maybe the rules, but laws of chess, it's better to say. Okay, fine. So let's start. I was playing Title Tuesday, so 3+1. This is a blitz game against a feeder master from the United States. He had a higher rating than me, but well, I'm improving my rating. French defense, one of the main lines, so it's called Stanis variation. Then I play bishop e3, supporting d4, a6, queen d2, b5. Now b4 is coming, so a3, bishop b7, and bishop d3. So this is a theoretical position. People usually play queen b6 or take on d4 here. Playing c4 is a mistake, for example, if your opponent plays c4 here. Then bishop e2, the position is closed on the queen side, and you can still do g4 and f5, or just f5. So similar to what Gukesh did in the first game, the one that he lost. His main problem was that he had the bishop here on this diagonal on g2. If only he had the bishop on d3, that f5 g4 idea would work. If you remember, later in the game, Gukesh had to retreat with his bishop back to f1. Okay, so yes, thanks, John. Strong positions lead to promising tactics. Here I would add that even if these tactics are initiated by your opponent. So even if he finds a tactical strike, then if you did strategically everything properly before that, these tactics will favor you. Okay, well, my opponent played this move, which is quite uncommon. So I castled, which is definitely common. C takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes. Then he initiated a mass exchange. I don't understand the purpose of that exchange, because if I play knight a2 and set my knight on d4, then it's easier for me to play f5, and I actually have in mind the kingside attack. So bishop takes, knight c5. And what should I do? This is the critical moment of the game. I'm fine with this. Why? Or even with this too. I think I would capture with the queen, but even if I had to capture with a pawn, it's completely fine because this knight on d4 in such a case is well, 10 times better than the bishop on b7, and this provides me with a strong positional advantage. Maybe I won't win the endgame, but I will definitely play that endgame for a win with good chances. So what do you think? What white should be doing here in terms of proper planning? So f5 is a very common plan, but should we play f5 right away, or we should somehow prepare a f5 move? Bishop e2, g4, e5. Well, bishop e2 to retreat. Well, this move allows the enemy knight to invade your camp, so I don't think it's promising. So preparing with g4. No, I actually think that preparing with king h1 or maybe c3 to reinforce the position of the knight in the center. So c3 looks good, but doing c3, king h1 or something else would be a tempo loss, which would decrease my positional advantage. If you can play a5 right away and it works, you'd better not prepare it but play immediately if it works, if you're not missing anything. So he does queen b6. I don't actually have to play c3, but it was blitz and I played c3. And it seems that I blunder a tactical strike, right? With knight b3, it is a fork because my knight is pinned. That's true, so it is a fork. But even this tactical strike favors me. How does it favor me? So actually, the best move in this position is king h1 to avoid these problems. There is no good move to create a discovered attack. And, well, maybe this, but then I take there. And even if he takes, well, somehow on d4, then I have a discovered attack. I can move my bishop and deliver a check. So king h1 was the best move. I played c3 instead. And like blunder it, knight b3. It was logical, but this because before that I played strategically well. Even knight b3 favors me. Can you please suggest the move for white in this position? Queen g5 is interesting. I didn't analyze it. I think then he captures on d4, because if his queen captures on d4 with a check, then e5 also falls. Okay, so queen there, knight d4, and this is not playable because of knight f5, which creates a discovered attack. That's why c takes, probably. Well, maybe you can play queen e3 in this position. Queen e3, knight e2 works. Queen e3, knight e2. Then king goes there to protect the queen. And after that, queen takes, king takes, knight c3 works well. This, and black should be winning here. They have two pawns. So queen g5 definitely is a mistake. Queen f2, exactly. I want to check on f7 and have a dangerous attack. Knight a1. So this time I'm protecting on d4. If he decides to take, I'm completely fine because this is how I reinforce the center and I've already played this. And if he castles, I play that. So that's why knight a1. F takes e6 and he castles. He doesn't want to get something like that. It's a complete blunder. I cannot play knight a6. There is a pin, of course. But if I move king h1, he is in trouble because this is the next move. He can try to save, of course, right? But then just taking here and bringing the rook to the game leads to a disaster. Oh, I could take on g7 right away also. Yeah, it would work too. Let me show you. So this queen takes, no, not this queen g7, rook e8, and then rook goes there. This is a checkmate. How can he stop it? Good question, because well, this works, right? Oh, no, it shouldn't work. No, actually it works. So rook f7 right away isn't a good one. Okay, then just take there. Take there, we are down exchange. We have one pawn as a compensation. We are likely to take this or that one. So white should be better then. That was my plan. And actually, taking on e6 was the best option. My opponent castle. How would you continue here? Is it time to capture? If so, then how to deal with f takes e6? Or maybe we have something else in mind. What do you think? Okay, John, please explain the purpose of e7. Ah, the rook cannot move. Good point, actually. Yeah, very good move. Yeah, so John, it's a very nice idea. The rook moves, you take there, and after king h8, you can play queen f8, which leads to a checkmate. Very nice move. I didn't see it. I was debating between this and this. E takes f7 is definitely the best option. King h8, and then you play e6, threatening this attack, and e7 becomes a greater threat then. But I like your e7 too. So I played bishop h7. Why? I somehow decided to capture on f7, covering the g8 square for the king, and then deliver a check with my queen, so that the king has no squares to escape. Well, it may escape to g6, after which it's checkmated anyway. So he took. Then I cannot play this move right away because he escapes, and then e takes f7 doesn't work because he captures with a rook. So that's why I played queen f5. Now he has to play the only moves. If only he moves the king, then I can succeed with my original idea. So not queen h5 because of queen h6, but e6, g6, queen f6. Now a rook lift guarantees a win. So he has to take there, but queen e7. He doesn't want to lose the rook back, so he plays king g8. How would you continue in this position? You cannot play knight e6, the knight is still pinned, otherwise it would be a good move. No, the knight is pinned, guys, come on. You should see these things. Um, yes, thanks Zamfir, it's rook f6. How does it work? So if he takes, I bring another attacker, the pawn to the attack. And if not, then I take on g6 and deliver a ladder, the so-called ladder mate. So how to play? Queen c7 loses. Take, take, queen takes c7. It's a simple win. Rook c7 is a blunder. Rook f8 is a checkmate. So it seems that the only thing they can do is to capture. Then I capture and threaten with a checkmate on g7. The only way to stop it is to set one of his pieces on c7. Well, again, if he does with a rook, which was the best move, then the game would continue with f7. King h7, f8 equals queen. He takes my queen, I take his rook, and now I'm winning. How? Because of what? So I can win this knight at the very least. The knight cannot escape if only I play king h1. So for example, the king moves. I can play king h1 and threaten with this, as well as with this and this, which traps the knight. And my knight is definitely better than the bishop. Probably my opponent would continue with this move, trying to save here, but then doesn't matter where the king is. If it's on g8, it's queen e8 simply. If it's on h6, I can play this and take the bishop. So he is likely to lose this endgame anyway, mainly because of his poor pieces location. The bishop on b7 and the knight on a1. So he actually made a mistake. Queen here, and after f7 he resigned. Why? Well, king h8, f8. Now he loses here, and this is a completely winning position. The knight is lost, and these two pieces do not compensate the queen. Moreover, I don't see how to protect them. So probably bishop c8. I can continue with, well, queen e7 or queen e5. Oh, queen e5. At the very least, queen e5 and queen e1. So I take this knight for free. And this is just a winning endgame. Okay, fine. So what did I want to illustrate by doing this game? You see, I was played strategically well, and I played a very, I played a proper plan with f5 in this variation. So that's why a tactical strike that my opponent found didn't favor him. Because of my activity there. Here, I didn't play properly. Bishop h7 is also kind of a mistake, but it's not a significant mistake. So even with not proper calculation, I was able to defeat my opponent because this tactic favored me mainly because my strategic play before that moment was almost ideal or even ideal. Okay, why not to promote to a knight? Okay, good point, but it doesn't work. Let me show you. So, in which position? Probably here. This. You can promote to a knight. It doesn't work because king g8 and you have no checks. That's the reason. Okay, fine. So, what else do we have here? Again, guys, if you like my webinars and you would like to support me, please use this link. It works easily. You just click this button, donate, and this is how you can send a donation by PayPal. Enter the amount you want to donate, click this button, PayPal, then it redirects to the PayPal website. You can enter and log in with your details and then send money automatically to my account. So I would appreciate any help that helps me to prepare better for the webinars. Fine. The other thing I wanted to announce is our group lessons that starts on Monday. So um, this is a course of group classes. There will be 24 live sections. Each of them will be 1 hour and a half. So 90 minutes. 24 lessons totally. 12 weeks, two times a week on Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is all this information is here. And the rates are, this is the plan actually. So the rates are quite affordable. So it's $220 for the whole course for all 24 lessons, or it's 79 per month. Anyway, it's about $6 per lesson. $6 per hour. It's less than $10 per lesson and $6 per hour. So it's very affordable. And by the way, those of you who cannot attend live sessions will get the recordings, so, and the homework. So you can you may not follow my plan, but you can go on your own pace and still learn what I'm going to share. Well, the only disadvantage is not participating in live sessions is that you have to, if you have any questions, you have to send them by email and I will answer only then. But if you have any questions during the live session, you can ask them, and once we have a pause, I will definitely answer immediately. So my recommendation to participate, if you are a chess player who is under 15 or at under 1700, you will definitely take advantage of this course and improve your skills. So this is the link for you. What else? Let's go back to our to our leeches. So this. Okay, then knight d7. Well, how does knight d7 work? So knight d7 doesn't work actually because they can capture and then play e5. I'm not saying it works, but let's say what do you do? So you have to unpin. So you play queen e8, king h7, and queen takes e5. But then he escapes with knight b3. So it's definitely not winning for white. It's better to promote to a queen. So knight d7 fails, unfortunately. Well, the last thing that I would like to share with you today is the game between Gukesh and Dingleren. And I did see this game today or early in the morning, and I thought that actually this game suits our webinar's topic today. So first, let's see what happened, and then I'll explain why this game is a good example uh, to take in order to show you the concept of tactics and strategy. So d5, well, this is what I play myself with black pieces too, and after c4 I play d4. Before this time, Ding played the most popular move, c5, so he is completely fine with this because then knight c6 and he can capture this pawn with his bishop. If they try to defend some with this move, he immediately may fight for the center and capture this pawn later. Also, there is bishop c5 and queen a5 check to win this pawn. So it's not extra pawn. That's why such a strategy is fine. But at the same time, he has always to keep in mind that once b takes c5, d4 becomes weaker and he has to protect it too. Well, for example, I myself here play g5. What's the concept? So knight g5, e5, double attack. And black fights for the center. So probably after g5 it does make sense to play this, after which bishop g7 protecting on d4, and after knight g5 e5 is not a double attack. But anyway, black has so strong domination in this position, uh, that's why even the engine thinks that black is better, and some accurate play is required from white in order to keep the position equal. So here, for example, the best move is queen a4. Not everyone knows about that. And then it's queen b3. But even there, I demonstrate how... actually, no, it's not this. It's... Well, it's h3. Well, I don't remember, actually. I need to check. But even here, um, white may experience serious issues. According to the engine, it's equal. But white has to play properly to not lose the control over the center and get in trouble. So g5 is a very good move if you want to play for a win. And this is actually what I show in my course, how to play against knight f3. So there is a course on the chess world. I published it a while ago, but I still stick to the lines that I explained there. If you needed this course, just let me know. I'll send you the link. But I don't think that many of you meet this line. So you can use this course as a weapon against knight f3 if you like d5 positions. Well, just tell me if you need, I'll send you the link. If not, let's continue. So e3 undermining the pawn on d4. Knight f6 and a3 supporting this pawn. This. So why does he play bishop g4? He wants to fight for the d4. Queen a4, there is no point. Knight c6 just. Or even queen d7 works well. So e takes d4, c takes d4, and h3. So retreating with the bishop would be a bad idea. For example, bishop b2. Yeah, that's true. D3, g4, bishop g6, and bishop g2. So this pawn is likely to be a weakness. There is also a pressure here. Bishop f3, queen f3. Looks logical. There is a pressure here. And Ding didn't play this move because he was afraid of b5 and queen takes b7. He played queen c7. Well, it's likely to be approximately equal position. d3, a5, b5. So a5 is a very nice move because now c5 square is available for the knight. So from a strategic point, Ding was playing really well. g3, knight c5, bishop g2, and well, just an ordinary player would keep developing his pieces like that, castle then and so on. But Ding plays knight fd7, having in mind some tactical ideas with the weakness of d3. So the bishop on g2 on the one hand is well placed because it pressures b7, but with such a knight on c5, b7 is protected enough times. And the disadvantage of this move, on the other hand, is that there is the queen, which is tied down to the pawn on d3, and just one more piece attacking d3 would cause problems. So castle, one more knight move to attack there, but queen f4. And now, for example, taking here wasn't the best idea. Well, the knight is pinned, so taking with the c knight, but queen e4, and well, black captured on d3, but now their knights are stuck. They have to protect each other. And d4 is hanging and b7 is hanging too. So is, for example, e6, f4, attacking this knight. If this knight moves, the other one is hanging. So knight c1 is a must, rook c1, and this guy moves back, after which queen b7 is possible. Queen d4 is possible too, but not this time with the pawn on f4. So if the pawn was on f2, then yes. So here queen b7, and then the bishop comes to c6, and the b pawn can be promoted. This is the problem. So that Ding didn't capture on d3, and he did play properly. Rook d1, and he just plays g6. Again, taking there this time is a mistake because of that, because if the knight is pinned, maybe you can say you can play g5 to distract the queen and then capture the rook. But if so, it's just queen e4, and what then? Do you have to sacrifice, take the rook and exchange your two knights for rook and pawn? It definitely favors white. So that's why g6. What's the point? Activating the bishop. So a4, activating this bishop, but h5 and bishop h6 becomes a deadly attack. So b6, attacking. Why did he play b6? Well, right now, taking is a blunder. This is where Ding made a mistake. He'd better play queen b8 move. This is a safe square. He doesn't experience any issues. He can play his knight to c6. Everything looks good. For example, queen d2, knight b3 fork. If, yeah, any suggestions?
White played a lot of pawn moves this game.
Yeah,
The
true.
open and the middle game.
Yeah, but this king is still not castled, so I cannot say that there is a huge advantage in development for black. Just some little advantage, yes, there is. Well, let me explain the concept. White didn't choose the best opening to play for a win. He chose such an opening because he wanted to diversify the positions that they get. So he wanted black to do some kind of counter attack through the center, which would potentially allow white to play for a win. And I think this strategy worked. So he gave up the center, he let Ding to equalize, but then Ding made a mistake because of the counterplay that White initiated. Anyway, so queen b8 would be good. He played queen d6, fall under a pin. Bishop h6 works. The queen has no squares. Well, I don't think h4 is a good square. Well, so bishop c5, queen takes c5, and the queen retreats to better position to e4. Knight goes to c6 to the safe place. Knight goes to a3. This time, taking on b6 looks possible, but if only black captured on b6, what do you think white could do? There is no refutation, immediate refutation. You have to prove that your pieces are active enough to play for a win here. Knight b5 doesn't look like a good move. What's the purpose? You cannot play knight c7, so they would probably just castle after knight b5. Okay, so it's actually rook b1 and rook b5. Why? Well, there will be pressure on these two pawns, a5 and b7, and after c5, the knight may go to c4. and most likely black would lose a pawn, and after losing the pawn their pieces would be passive. So here, for example, they experience issues, but they have extra pawn which partially compensate these issues. Once they lose a pawn, they are losing. The position is losing. Okay, so that's why he didn't take, which is good. But instead, he played rook d7 move, which is not a good idea. He'd better castle, for example, or something like that. But he played rook d7. Why? He wanted to protect. That's the reason. Knight c2, it stops knight b4 move, because such a move like knight b4 would close the b file and wouldn't allow white to locate the rook on b5, for example. Now queen takes b6, rook a b1, queen c7, and rook b5. White has a compensation. So almost similar to what I suggested, but this time these moves were included. Castle, knight goes to a1. What a terrible move, right? But then he wants to go to b3. And knight b4 doesn't work because b7 is hanging. That's why the knight is no longer required on c2. So rook b8, knight b3, e6. That was a critical mistake. After knight c5, rook e7 has to be played. Rook db1, threatening to take. And what would you play in this position? Those of you who didn't watch the game, tell me what would you play? So knight b4, okay, so nice suggestion. Knight b4, you would let them take, then rook takes, queen cannot take because of the knight on c5 hanging. So knight b4, rook takes, knight takes. Yeah, it would be fine. I think white is slightly better then. So the game that Dink played was queen c8. What white should do? So what do you think? So knight b7 is a suggestion. Bishop c. Oh, knight b7 is okay. It's knight b7 probably. Knight b7. How does it work? Well, it looks fine. You win the pawn. They probably continue with knight b4 this time. But of course, it's queen c6. So queen c6, just a simple win. How is it possible for the world champion to blunder such a move? Well, if he had 1 second on his clock, I would say, okay, fine. He was low on time, but he did have time. So this, and it's lost. So he resigned after queen captures c6. Now he's down a piece with no compensation at all. Queen takes c6, bishop takes c6, and he's down a piece. Well, rook c8, bishop b7 just. It's terrible. But if he played knight b4 here, his position would be still fine. Then knight b7, bishop f8, rook a1. Why I chose this game? So you see, black was doing strategically everything well. It was some mistakes like rook d7, for example. But even when his position was very tough and white had pressure on b7, just one simple move, knight b4, would help him to keep the position approximately equal. However, he missed this chance. So, and instead, well, after getting approximately equal position, Gukesh starting playing properly from a strategic point of view. He prevented the black threats and also add pressure on the b7, trying to win this pawn and restore material balance. And suddenly, Black made a mistake and immediately he found a tactical strike. Well, this tactical strike actually was very transparent. Well, and here I absolutely agree with Kramnik, who says that he doesn't want to comment this match because the quality of the chess players is terrible and they don't deserve to play this match. But if not they, if not then, if not they, then who? So also a big question. Well, definitely Magnus Carlsen would play better. Jan Nepomniachtchi would play better too. So if it was Gukesh playing against Nepo, it would be better, in my opinion. If you don't agree, it's fine. So what you should remember that if you do a if you do a proper strategic plan, don't be afraid to blunder tactics. If you calculate these tactics better, you are likely to still find a way of how to find intermediate moves and avoid problems there and so on. So on the chess world, you can find my course. So let me show you. It's one of my early courses. How beating knight f3. Yeah, this is the course. This is the whole opening repertoire against knight f3. I can share the link with you. So this is the link. Also, when you decide to purchase it, so it costs $99, but do not forget to use my coupon code. So check out. And here, if you well have a coupon, click here to enter your code. Yes, you should enter Victor 60, and then it saves you 60%. So it's mainly for my students. Victor 60. So yes, this is how you can get this course if you want. Anyway, so tomorrow I would love to see everyone in this course in our group lessons. Well, there are already several people who joined it, and I'm going to send the link to a Zoom meeting on Monday, which is tomorrow, and then we start. So I'm sure everyone will enjoy it. I will be well prepared for that first lesson as well as for the other lessons. And those of you who didn't um, join our live sessions will get recordings and the homework. Just don't forget to enroll. It's very affordable, so the rates are very low here. And well, I don't know if I will create such an offer next time. Probably not. I will instead record the course. Okay, fine. So I'm glad that you enjoyed, guys. See everyone next Sunday. Probably the link of this webinar will be the same, but anyway, register on the Chesslands website for the next webinar and you will get the link by email twice. One the day before and the other the other email with a reminder 15 minutes before we start the webinar. Thank you for joining. So I have a homework for you, so let me send it. Um, Oops, no, I'll send it. I wonder why it doesn't work. Okay, so I'll send it by email to every participant tomorrow together with the recording of this event. Thank you and see everyone at the very least next Sunday. Some of you I'll see tomorrow during the group lessons. Bye bye.